right? Bringing in the forage and the harvest. I'm gonna bring it over to the sink. And I will clean it in a moment, though first I've been preheating the oven. So I'm actually going to take one of the loaves out, the sourdough bread loaves that I've made. They've been fermenting for 48 hours in the refrigerator, which makes them incredibly digestible and healthy with healthy bacteria in them. This is a little bread loaf. And hold on a second, I'm gonna get some parchment paper. And this is essentially will be like a little sling to put the bread into the oven. So I'm preheating a cast iron Dutch oven in there at 500 degrees. So it's very, very, very hot. And then I bring out my little bread loaf. This is so cute. This is my little bread loaf. And then there's something called a bread lamb, and it's essentially a razor blade. You can do a knife if you need to, but when the bread gets put into the oven, it needs to expand, essentially grows. And in order for it to do that, it has to be scored open. So essentially, I make an X across the middle, and you go quite deep because you really want the bread to pop open. And then you go the other direction. I love this whole entire process. It's so pleasing. So I'm gonna make sure that the cuts are good, nice and deep. I'll cut it on all sides. And then like I said, I wanna basically use this parchment paper as like a little bread carrier to go in. So I cut it because the parchment paper will also get really hot, obviously, and it will crumble. So I want as little paper as possible. So this is kind of like a little apparatus. So I'm gonna get the very, very hot Dutch oven out. My mom's wife uses barbecue mitts for this process because it's incredibly hot. I'm gonna put this right here. So it's very hot. I turn the oven down by 50 degrees to 450, and then I'll put my little loaf with all the blessings and of happy bread making. And then I'll put the top on. This is very exciting. I love baking bread. So I'm gonna put this in for 30 minutes exactly. So while that's baking, I will, let's see, okay. I will clean some of the vegetables and the herbs and things for tea. And we're about 5 minutes from the bread, taking the bread out for the first moment, and then it'll be 10 more minutes till it's ready. That's what I'll have, it's so exciting. The bread has been baking for 30 minutes, and I'm gonna lower the temperature by 50 degrees and take off the top, and it'll have 10 more minutes of essentially browning and popping a little bit more. So I can already smell it. I wish that we could convey the smell of baking bread. Again, it's very hot, so I'm gonna remove. Oh my goodness gracious. Look at that beautiful girl. So I again, I'm very careful this gets kind of stuck on that, but you can see how much that popped since I scored it. And this burst really beautifully. So I turn it down by another 50 degrees. And then back in she goes, and that'll be on the dot 10 minutes more because, I found it's quite an exact science to bread baking. So 10 more minutes, I'm gonna have hot bread. Yay. So the bread, 10 minutes have gone by. So the bread is officially ready. I'm gonna get my pot holders. And this is, oh my goodness gracious. So this is the beautiful loaf of bread that was just baked. It's very exciting. I will put this all away. I really do. It would be like, you know, smell-o-vision, where we could all like convey the smell of bread. I have a little cooling rack. And then this essentially, my little contraption of parchment paper. So that is, it's quite hot, but it's also, it's so pretty. And so this is bread that I have, as I said, was fermented for 2 days. So it's exceptionally healthy and easy to digest, which is what's so great about sourdough. You can also, I'm gonna get my pot holder. And so you can, just because it's so hot, but the way to tell that it's done is you knock. And if it sounds hollow, that's when you know that it's done. So usually, and we'll have to see, but usually you need to let it cool for a few hours, that's actually part of its setting as it continues to cook like this. So this, as I had mentioned about before, this is my baking station as well. And I got into making sourdough bread just maybe 5 months ago. And my mom's wife, Dolly, had a sourdough starter that was in her family, and I think it was at her neighbor's, and she gave me some of this starter that she had dried. And essentially it's just flour and water. And eventually this will start to ferment. And so the fermentation process, I basically initiated the fermentation process, which took maybe 2 weeks of just giving a little more flour, a little more water, a little more flour, a little more water. And as it grew, it starts to take the bacteria, the healthy bacteria that's in the environment, and it absorbs it. And so it keeps rising. It's like a culture, essentially. So we're all again taught to be so afraid of bacteria, and we're made of bacteria, essentially. And this is such a helpful way of utilizing bacteria, especially in our digestion. So sourdough has all those healthy bacteria. So essentially, I feed the starter like it's a little pet and have it grow. And then I grow it big enough to and strong enough so that it could make this dough rise, essentially. So I will get enough starter, which is essentially just, you know, the yeast of bread, naturally formed, naturally fermented, and put flour and salt and water, make the dough, and then you go through a whole stage of doing these stretch and folds, essentially was what it's called, and it strengthens the dough. And then I let that sit for 8 to 10 hours, and it almost doubles in size. It becomes like this big ball of dough. And then I cut that in half and form these little loaves. And then those loaves I keep them in the refrigerator for 48 hours. And that's a slow fermentation process. And it makes the bread more sour, and it makes it more digestible, and it makes it more healthy for you. So this is my gorgeous little bread loaf. I mean, this is a good one. I'm experimenting all the time. I mean, this is a really beautiful little bread loaf. So hopefully we can all enjoy it together in a little bit. And I was going to say, I also have been experimenting making nut butters as well, because I love to have nut butters. And I also find that sometimes I'll have like almond butter, and it will be difficult for my digestion, because nuts can be difficult for people to digest. And so I've been making butters with sprouted nuts, because again, like I said, it's a lot easier to digest. So I have a little blender over there, and I will put coconut oil and whatever blend of nuts that I have. I was saying the macadamias or almonds, pistachios, whatever I like, and then blend that up with coconut oil and have my own nut butter as well. I was like, how much can I make myself? Like, what else can I make here, grow here, so that I can be feeding myself with things that I know where these things come from, that I've had my hand in care and love and kindness to grow and feed myself. It makes such a difference. And then I love sharing with my community. I bake bread for all my loved ones, and I bring that to them, and I am filled with joy to do so.